So when it comes to GameStop in general, most people don't understand the market. They don't understand if the CEO is just going to quit tomorrow, and all of a sudden a great stock
What?
becomes a terrible stock. And so when they look at GameStop, I guess you're telling people, hey, you're an idiot for buying this thing. How many people do you think know that they're just gambling? They're not going to do a good job anyway. And this hype train looks like this is their best chance at getting lucky. So they put their money into the pot because it's easier than ever
Yeah.
to just buy one of these stocks. How much do you attribute to that versus them just being, I guess, in your title, retarded?
Oh yeah. I mean, and when I say retarded, I definitely am not trying to dig at anyone personally.
Thank you.
So what I think is going on is I'd say most of it is maybe I can't quantify it, right? Like some percentage of it is wishful thinking, and some percentage of it is being new to investing. Like the first caller we had sounded really new to investing. He said he was in his 20s. He thought there was an Illuminati conspiracy to control the stock market. And, he just didn't sound very sophisticated, which you don't have to be sophisticated to be a good investor. But I think over time, as you trade, you learn things, you invest, you learn things, and you learn the ropes. And, somebody tells you, or you look up what short selling is, and you look up financial statements, and you kind of go on your own journey to learning things. I think but you hit it on the head, and there's a lot of symptoms of this behavior. A great example is Dogecoin and Shiba. These are two crypto tokens that are worth in aggregate around $20 billion, and neither represent productive assets. They're sort of meme tokens, and they've lasted kind of the test of time. That time being still relatively short period of time, like 10 years, but they've lasted the test of time. And I think that one of the funny things about this is both of those, well, one of those tokens especially has many leading zeros. So the price of the token is something like, a 10,000th of a cent. And there is this fallacy. And in fact, funny enough, I'd meet lots of people when I did my involuntary relocation who had Dogecoin and Shiba because they said to me, Martin, well, if this goes to just one penny, I'm going to be worth, $10 million. And there, because I own, I don't know, 10 billion shares of, Dogecoin or something like that. And, it seems like it's possible that the stock can go to that price. And if it does, then I'm rich. And that is sort of the mix of wishful thinking and inability to sort of understand the bigger thing, which is like, how can this Dogecoin be worth more than, say, all the gold in the world? Or how can GameStop be worth more than Microsoft or something like that? That's really what it would take for you to be rich on GameStop. Maybe $1,000 can become $3 million. That'd be amazing. Unfortunately, it's not that easy, and I do think that a lot of it is wishful thinking and ZERP type of stuff. When unemployment's 3%, people can do that. When unemployment's 12%, you're lucky to put the food on the table, let alone gamble with GameStop or Shiba or Dogecoin. My good friend Rob Kelsey did it. I hope I covered that, and I've seen a lot of your stuff over the years, and thank you for coming.
Can I ask a follow up?
Of course.
I guess going forward, right? It reminds me of like the movie Idiocracy, right? It's like people know you can't grow crops with Gatorade, but they tried it anyway.
It
And
was a
over time,
documentary. Idiocracy
yeah,
was a documentary. I
yeah,
agree.
and it feels like as these, like for example, I remember when like you could never bet on sports. Now it's like promoted by all of these major
Right.
sports outlets. Like everyone should be gambling on sports. Like it's just the norm now. Cross state lines, lots of people are making money one way or another, and it becomes like it seems like gambling is a big part of our society, GDP. I mean, even from a tax revenue standpoint, getting more people to gamble in any fashion, whether it's the stock market, whether it's sports, whether it's with your career, anything seems to be the fastest way to move money around. Do you think going forward, people, I get you, like, hey, investing is should be a skill, should require studying, but all of these apps, all of these things that make it super easy for you to bet up or down, and some people do win, this seems to work. I'm not saying it's right because I'm pretty much against this line of thinking, but has the culture and the trend headed towards this is just the default thing we want people to do, and we could all piece off a piece in the middle as long as they gamble on anything, stocks, Bitcoin, will their grass grow? Is this like the new thing for making money?
It's really interesting. I think that somebody recently talked about this thing. Maybe it was one of these guys like Grant Cardone or one of these people that I typically don't care for, but they put out this really fascinating study on the increase of gambling in society, and meme coins are a really good example. There's billions of dollars of meme coins traded every day. It takes less than a penny to create a meme coin, and you get it going, and you know that the token's going to get rugged at some point, which means that the developer is going to basically take all of the liquidity from the token, and you do it anyway because some of these go up 100x, and you hope to get out of the musical chairs at the right time. And you see other people's stories about it, etc. Now, in terms of greater society, I do think it's dangerous. I come from a poor country called Albania. In Albania, the whole economy nearly crashed due to like Ponzi schemes and chain letter schemes. At one point, 25% of the country was invested in one Ponzi scheme. Um, so it's possible. Anything's possible. Herd mentality can create crazy things, and we saw that once with GameStop, where it went to hundreds of dollars a share, came crashing down. Now it's back, or it's starting to come back. Maybe it'll go back to hundreds of dollars a share. It was there before, so why not? Can it go back again? And you know, it the gambling
Hell
mentality,
yeah.
the gambling mentality is infectious, and it's why
Is it
Vegas.
gambling though, Martin?
Well, we'll talk about it in a second, Dilly. I think that the chance to make lots of money, which some people would call gambling, is a little infectious, and it's why it tends to be regulated. It speaks to a part of our mind that is the same part of our mind that gets lit up when we do drugs. It's the same part of the mind that gets lit up when a drug addict wants to take drugs. I'm not kidding. I mean, this is something I studied for a long time. Dopamine is literally the risk molecule, and gambling addicts and riskaholics and cocaine and alcohol and other drugs, people who are addicted to those, inhibiting dopamine will lower their propensity to use the drugs. Their risk, the benefit they get from taking this risk or satisfying this addiction is stymied. So I think that there's a reason that the government's tried to regulate this stuff over the years. Now, as a libertarian, I would say that screw that, let people do what they want. Other people on the far other side of that point would say, no, we have to protect people, lest they get addicted to drugs. Imagine if drugs were legal in the country, everyone would be on heroin. Perhaps, perhaps not. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist or a politician, but I do think that we're talking about a lot of the same behavior. Um, it is easy to lose all of your money in the stock market. It is easy to lose all of your money in crypto. There's a lot of reasons that in the 20s people swore off stocks forever. The Great Depression caused that generation to say, I'm never investing again. And it took, in fact, the dot-com bubble had a lot of the same dynamics, where you had cab drivers telling you about their favorite stocks, some of them becoming millionaires, losing all their money, and then rapidly kind of deciding to never touch markets again. And even the last crypto bubble had people swearing off crypto forever. And there's still a new crypto bubble. So I don't know. Rob's a very smart guy here. Love to hear what Rob thinks if he wants to say something.
Hi guys. Yeah. So sorry. I Martin, good to chat. I know it's been a while, but I joined super late, so I don't know. I apologize in advance if I've like missed a big piece of this. I kind of wanted to. I didn't even know that this was going on really until the last, I guess, day or two, when I saw some stuff on Twitter, X, whatever. Um, but and I think it's really easy for I call it loosely like sophisticated capital to look at this thing and go, of course this is worthless, right? Like it's trading at a 9+ billion market cap at the moment. We've seen this thing play out before. But my question is, and I guess full disclosure, I did short, and I actually it was profoundly expensive, as you might imagine. Finding a locate even at the time in 2021 was tough, but even then, you had to stomach the borrow costs to short it, which I did, and I actually did it on Twitch. I don't know if we ever had that
No,
conversation, but
I've seen it.
back in 2021.
I remember.
Did you see
I
that?
remember. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I did it, and it ended up obviously working out for me. But at the time, but I attributed much of that to, or I still attribute much of that to just, I was, I knew I was taking a big bet, and when you short a stock, your losses are theoretically uncapped, right? A stock can go to infinity, and if you're on the wrong side of that trade, then you are quite
Talk
fucked.
about
Um,
gambling.
yeah, no, right, correct. But I was again just kind of taking a bet that I thought at the time was a reasonable bet to take. It ended up panning out, and I don't remember exactly what the dollar amount was, but it was fine, and ended up being a good trade. With that in mind, it was profoundly uncharacteristic, and so it actually caused me kind of doing a postmortem on the thing, even though yeah, I did it very much like tongue in cheek and um, whatever. I did a kind of a postmortem on myself. I'm like, Jesus, like here I am looking, from a high level at the way that this has impacted so many people's kind of trading psychology, which anyone who is an active trader really, and not shouldn't just understand that trading psychology is a thing, but should actually study it, and kind of amass as many viewpoints on trading psychology as possible, because it is, if you want to trade actively, it's something that you
Mhm.
absolutely need to understand. But it caused me to look at my own and go, wait a second, this mass hysteria, like I like being a contrarian. I think I jumped in when you guys were talking about contrarianism, and it's a fun thing, a good thing from time to time to be as a contrarian. You can generally make more money being a contrarian than you can being someone that is part of the herd. But um, I looked at the mass hysteria and I was like, okay, I mean, I understand fundamentally this thing is obviously not worth it. 10 cents on the dollar. There's this mass hysteria. I'm going to try and time it, right? But the reality was the trade ended up working out well for me, but it just as easily could have blown up in my face and cost me millions of dollars, right? Um, and so I vowed to myself that I was never going to do that twice. Here we are in a similar position, albeit we're not quite at the levels that we
Let's
saw in
go.
2021.
Are you shorting?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not.
okay.
And there's a couple reasons why. But I want to talk. I mean, I want to ask a couple questions. And Martin, I'd love to kind of just have this conversation with you or anybody else who wants to talk about this, because there is an opportunity, right? The CFO of GME, and I'm going to fumble some of this because I can't remember all of the details. So please fill in the blanks, or if I get
Larry
something
Tank.
wrong, please correct me. But well, irrespective of who it was, they could have theoretically issued a bunch of shares, and basically paid off all of their debt with the amount of kind of inflow of basically the amount of buyers that were coming in. They could have all basically issued enough stock to then immediately pay off their debt, and the company would be debt free. Right
I
now,
think that was
there's
AMC because
They are
GameStop.
debt free.
Yeah, GameStop doesn't have debt, but
We have no debt.
I think AMC was the
$2
debt.
billion
was that
Yeah,
AMC?
cash
yeah.
on hand. Oh,
Okay. Well, that's okay. Then, so it's a separate meme stock, irrespective. So I guess we can move on from that specifically. But my question is like, what is the thing actually worth, right? It's not worth zero. So if we
definitely
back out
not.
the fundamentals, like the inventory, that's easy to obviously we can look at that. But like, what is the brand equity of AMC, or not AMC, of
Ooh.
GameStop actually worth? Like what? Because that seems like a reasonable place to start if we are going to start doing calculus on whether these trades are actually reasonable and
And
viable
I
to
think it was
make,
Kelsey's
right?
point. And Dilly, you've been waiting patiently, so I'm going to let you talk freely.
Patiently? Oh, I love you.
I'll let you talk freely in a second. But I think that's kind of what Kelsey was talking about in a way that the average GameStop trader is not worried about what the company's worth. They're worried about the dream. One, the dream of making tons of money. That's satisfying enough. Or two,
Right.
that maybe they don't understand that stocks generally are not going to go up 100x or 1000x or 10,000x, and that there is no such thing as a mother of all short squeezes, and so forth and so
Bro,
forth.
we
And then,
just like the stock. Like, we believe in the company. We
well,
like the management.
go,
We like
But
the
to do what?
fundamentals.
well,
We
go ahead.
like the
Tell us
Right.
projection.
more. Tell us
Okay,
more.
well, let me tell you, Martin, it's been so long since we've talked, and it feels so good to be here with you right now. Like, I think the last time I talked to you, I asked you like what you've spent more money on in life, Wu-Tang or Poo-Tang. That was under my alt. It was speaking of Wu-Tang, there's like some tinfoil. A lot of our tinfoil is like coming true now. But back to the fundamentals about GameStop. The company has no debt. We got cash on hand and we got a lot of it. And like this company is transformed. We have flagship stores in Italy that they're coming out with. Our pro membership is expanding into Canada. We have the ability now, they're taking Pokemon cards, graded cards that you can trade in. And everybody likes cash, like if you have like these cards laying around that are collector items, you can now bring them into GameStop, get fucking cash in your hand. And like that is such a viable like expansion for revenue for them. Not to mention with all the cash on hand this company has, they can easily sit with these tokens, these cards, collectibles that are going to accrue in value. Like
Okay.
they're now coming out with the entire
Okay.
like expanded line of their branded accessories. We have a partnership with Palmer Lucky that just fucking dropped today, you guys. I mean, like, talk about big dick energy. I don't know. Like, I
Right.
think there's a lot that you guys are missing, not to mention.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah,
When do you think the company's revenue will go up?
Exactly.
I think we're on the brink of something right now. I
Okay.
really do. I really think we're on the brink
Okay,
of something. I mean, just
so is the
imagine. Can we just imagine a second if like Warren
That's my
Hibby
job
just
as an
decided to exercise all his fucking calls? Have you like done the numbers?
but that's my
What?
that's my job as an investor is to imagine the
Oh, I
future.
know. Martin, I follow you. Like I follow you. Like
And
your commentary on the SBF like courtside commentary, that was just supreme work.
glad
Like
you enjoyed
beautiful.
it. So
Well,
games.
let's address what you just said. Him exercising all of his calls. Currently, he doesn't have the cash, at
We'll
least
talk
from what
about
he's
that.
shown.
Let's
How
talk
do we
about
know
that.
that, Amy?
Let's talk about
Because
that
I'm
later.
saying from what he's shown, the cash that is
Okay.
in that
Mhm.
account
But you guys realize he doesn't
is
have to
not
show
enough
us
to
Okay.
anything.
exercise
Okay.
the
Okay.
And the
calls.
wait,
fact
wait,
that
well,
he did, no, look, hold on a second. Let me just like, let me spread my wings 1 second. Like, the
Okay.
fact that he came back and, like he's doing all those memes and everyone's like, oh my God, look at what he's doing. He's like trying to like do a pump and dump. But did he sell today? No. He did a YOLO
Well,
update.
that
And
that
if
would
you
have
guys
been
were
too
here,
obvious.
Amy, I'm sorry.
All right, guys. Let's take a step back, and I think there's a lot of different like themes, and it's sometimes useful for people who can't think that fast, like me, to separate these themes a little bit into different sections. So we have the first, which is, you know, this Game Boy that was released by Palmer. I actually had small, very, 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 very tiny uh, notice on this to potentially help out on it. Very cool product. I'm sure it'll be great for GameStop. But in general, I think like there's two pieces to this: the fundamentals and then the marketplace, right? So the fundamentals, I think, as Rob and I are trying to like drill down on as longtime investment analysts. Rob's got a long career in the investment world, so do I. I'm talking about professional investing for a living, um, risking tons of money, making tons of money. Um, there's that, and I think that the first question was just basically, when's this company going to break even? When's this company going to make money consistently? The last 3 years, total cash flow is negative 500 million. That's not good. I don't like to buy companies if they're losing money. Usually, if they're making money, I try to do some ratios and different alternatives, compare them to other kinds of companies I could buy. I can buy a building, I could buy a bond, I can buy another stock, and I wouldn't buy something for 10 billion if it's not making money. At the very least, you could make me some money. I need some income. Doesn't have to be great. Like Palantir is trading at 100 times earnings. Well, at least they have earnings, and the revenue's growing. So why not buy a piece of Palantir instead of a piece of GameStop? So that's fundamental analysis. That's all well and good. Then you sort of talked about Keith Gill. Um, I think that if you spend a lot of time trading and investing, you start to realize the emperors have no clothes. And like I said earlier, if you're on the trading desk with JP Morgan and your job is to trade for clients, you're going to see Steve Ballmer's family office, Bill Gates' family office, Steve Cohen, the biggest, best traders, Renaissance, all of these traders are all putting their trades in a bag. Some of them are really rich, some of them aren't. Some of them have made more money than anybody. Some of them have made money eerily consistently, maybe illegally. Some of them are just doing their job and doing okay. But everyone has a bet, and there's nothing special about any of these people. I think that's kind of one of the key things that needs to be remembered. There's no one with a Midas touch. Even Warren Buffett, when he buys a stock, the stocks don't go crazy. Sometimes they'll go up 1 or 2%, and that's the best investor who's ever lived. Period. So, I'm happy to talk about the market dynamics. I just wanted to get my thoughts there out on the record, and on the fundamentals, it's important too. Kelsey, raise your hand. Dilly, I want you to talk as much as you like, but I just ask you to be as focused as possible and be atomic. Pick one thing that we can discuss, and let's pick that apart slowly, as opposed to just going through 100 different things.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead. Kelsey or Dilly.
all right, can you hear me now? I think the muting.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fundamentals.
Yeah, the mute button has a leg.
Yeah. So when I saw the whole crypto movement, the first thing that I thought was, hey, timeline wise, we got a lot of people to buy or put money into 401ks to buy stocks essentially at any price on the 1st and 15th, right? We told people, hey, invest for the long term. When you turn 65 or 100, you can tap into that. So save your money for 40 years. But all you got to do is buy stock at any price when you get your paycheck, right? Put it in your 401k. And then we get the ability to trade super quick. Hey, this stock may go up. I saw it on the news. There's a lot of price action being communicated. And within seconds, you can participate in that price action easier than actually buying lotto tickets at this point. And then we get to crypto. And crypto's look, skip the bullshit and the formalities. Let's just trade stuff. This is all you want to do. As long as everyone's playing by the rules, like you said, Martin, if you look at earning ratios, actually making money, maybe even paying a dividend. And if everyone's playing by those rules, it's yeah, all the technical analysis, all the fundamentals, it all makes sense as long as everyone. It's kind of like when people are fighting, doing karate, and then someone goes and starts grappling. It's hey, what are you doing? That's not allowed. But you lose the fight because they're no longer playing by the rules. So when I look at this GME stuff, it looks like people are saying, we don't care about the rules anymore. There is nothing stopping a stock from going up forever. If people wake up and every day they want to buy it at any price, right? It's $100 today. I think what's her name was saying, I like the stock. I'll pay $102. Nothing technically is stopping this from happening forever, other than logic. But if logic gets thrown away, can't this go on forever?
Yeah, so I think I touched on this earlier. I mean, I think that this is not new. People have tried to do this for literally hundreds of years. Some of the guys Rob hangs out with, I think he either knows or directly, or a lot of his crew down there, they know a family that tried to corner the silver market, and and they said, "What if we buy all the silver in the world?" And guess what? We have enough money to do it, and we're going to keep buying it. And at the end of the day, people who see us buy, they're going to buy as well, and we're just going to be rich forever together. Didn't work. They all went bankrupt. The Hunt family still has money, but the Hunt family, it sort of ended for them.
Does that change with cult-like mechanics where you have, let's say, 10 million people wanting to support something at the same time?
Yeah, it's interesting. So some people think of this as a DDoS. I know you're a legendary developer. I think some people kind of think of this like a distributed attack. The SEC has a rule. It was established in 1933. I may or may not have violated this rule once or twice, but it's called the wolfpacking rule. And the idea behind wolfpacking is the SEC wants you to disclose after you buy 5% of a company that you've bought 5% of a company, and you have 2 days to do it. And the reason is the market needs to be made transparent as that you're accumulating a big position. After you buy 10%, you actually have to disclose every single trade. And this is a little cumbersome paperwork wise, but it also is meant to kind of slow you down and put the market on alert that, hey, somebody's buying this big position, you should be aware. So in the past, I've tried to accumulate as much stock as I could in 48 hours so that I avoid the disclosure law for at least 48 hours. And in some cases, you can buy a ton of stock in that period of time. In this case, there is no such law because nobody knows each other. In the wolf packing law, if you know the other guy buying the stock, if I bought 4% and Rob bought 4%, we'd be wolf packing because we wouldn't have to disclose theoretically, but really together we have 8%. We should disclose because we increased over 5%, even if individually we did not. So people sort of form these groups, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally. This is the Wolfpack law. This doesn't apply if you don't know the other person. If we're all in a space and we buy 0.01%, as you're saying, we all 10,000 people do that. You have this distributed attack on the system. And again, if you look at the John Steele Gordon book I mentioned, called The Great Game, about the early start of Wall Street, really the entire history of Wall Street, there's nothing more inspiring to people than making infinite money at no risk. And people have tried every which way to do this. The hunt attack on silver was one example. I tried it with something called KBio in 2015. In some ways, Keith is trying it now. There have been many, many, many attempts to corner markets, force prices up, etc. None of them have seemed to work ever in the history of society. And I think there's one general reason, which is the marginal propensity to sell. As things go up, you look at your portfolio and say, gee, maybe I should lighten up. I didn't think that my net worth could be so high. I'm ready to sell 10%. And the thing is, the marginal seller dictates or buyer dictates the price of the stock. It doesn't matter if you only sell 1% of your position because it is that marginal price that matters. It is not whether or not you're only selling a teensy weensy bit. It's whether or not you sell at all, even one share, because if you decide to sell that share at a certain price, that's the new last price. And all of the trading history prior to that, all of the buying, holding, and diamond handing doesn't matter. All it takes is two trades or one trade. People can diamond hand for a decade, and then if one trade happens down 90%, that's the new price. It doesn't matter if you think it shouldn't be, but it just is. And it's kind of a funny part about markets. The last sale prevails, one, and two, the marginal buyer or seller sets the last price. So the diamond handing didn't work last time for a reason. AMC's diamond handing didn't work. It never works. It's literally never worked once. This is a new take on an old idea, but I think that the thing that stops it from working is that there is a marginal propensity to sell. If you got in early, you decide, you know what, I'm up a lot. It's time for me to sell. Now, your sell could be matched with a new buyer, but that new buyer's patience is going to wear thin. If he buys GameStop at 50 and out's at 25, he might say, oh man, I'm down bad. Once this thing goes back to 50, I'm a seller again. And you sort of go back to the same drawing board. And for whatever reason, the markets tend to clear. It's a great mechanism that works. And, I think that what most people who do this for a living have chosen to do is say, ignore all these market machinations. Fuck that. It's irrelevant. It's nonsense. Rob's right. Psychology is important. But if you just say, I'm going to put psychology out of my mind, I'm a long term investor, I'm just going to sit here and buy stocks that I like at good prices that are good companies, that's sort of an approach that maybe isn't going to bring every dollar out of the system into your pocket, but it should be decent returns. But I want Dilly to talk because we've been overrepresented as the GameStop haters or questioners, and I want to make sure the GameStop.
No, it's always good to have like a decent bear thesis. I'm not saying yours is decent, but it's good to like try, right? And I don't know, man. I like the stock. Like I've been in this since 2020. Um in and out, like doing things with it. I don't know. Like the fact that the board buys their own shares, that just speaks of integrity to me. Like Ryan Cohen doesn't take a salary. And I'm sorry if my tism is like really off the charts tonight. I have been flying fucking high all day. And like you're right, it's the dopamine, but man, it feels good. It really fucking feels good. Like he had 200,000 shares last time we saw his YOLO like updates. And for him to show up in super stock, he's been here all along with 5 million shares. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's crazy. And I mean, like, I don't think that anybody's like FOMOing because of like Roaring Kitty's like fucking position. Maybe they are. That's probably not that smart. Um, I'm not a professional like you guys, but even I know that. Like, I think people need to have conviction in their trade and like, do their own research. But
Well, what
I
gives
just,
you?
I'm a gamer at heart. Like, I used to play Counter-Strike. Like, I fucking love GameStop. Like, as a kid, like
Okay,
it's nostalgic. It's a feel-good
so
stuff.
maybe you could tell me what gives you confidence that the company's fortunes will change, because they've been fairly bad. I don't think anybody who can read would deny that the company loses money, lost money last year. We don't know if they'll make money or lose money this year. Every year we hope that our companies make more money than the year last, but over 3 years, GameStop's lost $500 million
But they were cash flow
last
positive.
quarter. Yes,
Yeah.
but they lost money every other
No, for
quarter.
the entire year, the entire year
Yeah,
accumulated
the
into a
entire
cash flow
year.
positive when you actually check the entirety year report.
Sorry, I know how to read financial statements. what was
So
what
do
was their
we.
cash?
Martin,
What was their cash flow from operations last year?
Martin, they went from negative $1.03 per earnings to a trailing 12 months
Okay,
of
no,
2 cents positive.
I'm talking about cash flow. I'm talking about cash flow.
Oh, they're profitable now, and
Okay,
their
I was asking
cash flow last week was
Great number.
fiscal
$933 billion.
$900 billion.
Sorry,
Okay,
$933 million
okay. So fiscal
last week.
2023,
Mm-hmm.
what was cash flow? I'll help you out. Negative 204 million. Fiscal
On cash
22,
flow?
huh?
Are they on? Is their fiscal and calendar aligned?
No.
No.
What is it?
So
Are they March to March?
they
Yeah,
are
that's fourth
Feb.
quarter.
They are Feb to Feb. So fiscal 2023, they lost money. Fiscal 2022, they made a small amount of money. Fiscal 21, they lost a lot of money. Net, they lost 500 million over the last 3 years.
Their trailing 12 month is up 2 cents a share.
So I can look at their last few quarters, but the last SEC filing is what I'm reading off of. It's the last 10K, and it was
Look at the
negative.
annual report for 23.
Yeah.
So not the trailing 12 months.
That is literally the trailing.
Another
That is
quarter.
literally the trailing 12 months. Is the last filed report. Is negative $203.7 million.
I'll screenshot it right here. What I got on the
Yeah,
2
their
cents
Q1.
positive.
I think they report their Q1 on June 11th. So it's got to be whatever the 10K is from Feb of this year has got to be the most recent.
Yeah, I definitely know how to read financial statements. As you guys know, I have classes on it on YouTube.
Oh, look, I mean, these are all statements of fact, right?
Well,
Like we can sort
we're
this thing
disagreeing
out.
about them, but I think that
No, I know that's my point.
The main point is,
it sounds like you're reading off the 10K.
Yeah,
so
I am. I have it in front of me. They lost money, 203.7 million. That's cash flow. Last year before that, they made money. If the company is progressing, conditions would be improving, but revenue is going down. It's hard to be a retailer. As I said earlier, it's not enviable. Nobody wants to be a retailer.
Well, revenue and profitability are two entirely different things. Revenue can go down for a number of reasons.
I've been a publicly traded CEO. I'm very familiar with the idea.
Well,
It's
then
in the nest
we're
right
going
now, Martin, on their positive.
Irregardless of if you're familiar with it or not, I think it needs to be stated for maybe other people listening that profitability and revenue downscaling are two entirely different things.
Well, you generally want your revenue.
The way that you put it makes it sound like it's not.
Well, when you run a business, you want your revenue to go up, right?
But I could sell $1 trillion of $100 bills for $90
Yeah,
and
yeah, but
be
I mean,
a Silicon
I've never heard
Valley
of
company the last 12 years.
I've never heard of somebody saying revenue going down is good.
It is if you're downscaling and
100%.
trying to trim fat of things that might be costing you more in the long run.
Well, I guess, of course it's good to cut your costs, but it hasn't shown up in the earnings, right? The earnings have not gone up.
It's in the nest right now.
I am looking at the SEC filing. I don't know what you posted, but I'm looking at literally the 10K.
I'm looking at their earnings
That's just
at 2
This
cents
is
EPS
so
positive.
much
report pulled
fun.
If you
from
see their
Google.
P, go to any PE ratio right now, and it won't show negative. It'll show this positive,
I'm a
extremely
financial
high number.
I'm literally a financial statements expert. SEC.gov, 10K, negative 203.7 million.
Okay, so let's say that like so the revenue, whether it's shrinking, it's not shrinking, whatever, the cash flow is shrinking, not shrinking, whatever. Like, what about like, okay, so if we treat this as a retailer, right? What does same store sales growth look like, or any of the same store metrics look like? If we go back to just like traditional retail fundamentals, do any of those stand out as like interesting, or are they all kind of singing the same
They don't
song?
disclose it anymore.
Okay. Well, generally, we would say that's a bit problematic, right?
Same
Um,
store sales are shrinking,
okay,
and
and
their e-commerce is launching, and they
okay, and
now
their
have
e-commerce is launching.
150. Yeah, the
So,
150
and now,
And they
if
are
brands.
someone has a better
expanding
understanding,
into different
is this a complete turnaround story, or is
areas of
this? I
Well,
mean,
when you look
profitability.
at the
is
product lineup,
because I'm
completely okay. So for one thing, you'd have to take into account their product lineup change. So they're no longer just a
okay.
video game retailer. And sure, you could get into the whole thing of the new cards. You can get into the debacle having to do with the
Dude,
NFT
that's huge.
flop. But the point is, one of their biggest
That's
changes is hardware. The hardware shakeup is massive for them
Okay.
because it opens them up to the complete PC gaming community that they haven't been able to touch for a while. So they're partnered with several different people when it comes to actually manufacturing and putting out their own branded hardware, RAM, keyboards, stuff like that, which is great. But on top of that, they're actually doing something very specifically that I like as a gamer, which they created a whole new company trademarked called CandyCon, and they're releasing some of the best hardware controllers on the market. I mean, these things are actually now cheaper than PlayStation 5 and brand new Xbox controllers, and they have better hardware equipment inside of them. So they're coming out with superior product at cheaper prices.
When do you think
And they're
when
doing this in
hmm
various other
hmm
sectors too.
when do you think
So
when do you think revenue goes up?
Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't tell you
well,
for sure. I don't
probably
have a
soon
crystal
because
ball,
of
but
that.
I mean, a lot of these products and the change over the company entirely definitely doesn't, preach to the guidance that it's a failing, dying company. It preaches to the what the company is trying to do, which is to turn around. And I have complete faith personally, and that's why I invested in that they will be able to turn this ship and right it and kind of redesign the company and find a different path forward.
Yeah,
Also, to
they
your
definitely
point
need a
about the hardware, like,
different path forward, right? I mean, the current business
can
is
I say
current
this?
current business is a bit of a
Um,
disaster.
Sorry, Martin. Oh, sorry. But like the hardware is like such a big, huge market. Like I worked at Best Buy. I'm old, I'm 38. And when I worked at Best Buy, I sold computers and we had the best discount ever back in the day. It was 5% over wholesale. I bought a USB cord one time for 24 cents. Imagine all of those GameStop branded products they're now able to create on their own and sell that like with all of that margin, that's
Doesn't
huge.
Amazon do
That's
that?
fucking huge, man. Yeah, that's any company should be doing that now. We know that that's profitable. The fact that they're expanding into that, isn't that like
One of the
that's
big
going to create
differences
more
between
revenue?
their
That's what we're
Is
hardware,
talking
there?
one
I
about.
of the big
mean,
differences between GameStop's hardware that they've been putting out and somebody like Amazon's hardware is, and I've purchased from both. So speaking from experience, Amazon's hardware is shit. Like the crap that they sell you, it's all Chinese knockoff, horrible hardware switches. It's crap. But the hardware that GameStop has been pumping out, it's not crap. They buy from the same manufacturers that manufacture Corsair's crap. So I mean, it's actually good quality stuff that people buy pretty regularly and put into high-end machines.
Maybe I can ask like this.
Well,
So the holiday quarter is usually the biggest, right? So last holiday quarter was 1.8 billion. The holiday before that was 2.2 billion. The holiday before that was 2.3 billion. The holiday before that was 2.1 billion. When does the patience run out that the current CEO, so that's 4 holidays. I don't know when he was named CEO. Does anybody have that?
23
I'm sorry?
Last year.
last year.
23. So is there,
Ryan Cohen's my daddy.
at what point would there be, like holiday 24, this holiday season coming up?
I mean, you could look at it from a holiday perspective just based on the fact of trending sales, but at that same point too, if you're going to factor in one company's holiday performances, you're going to have to compare it to all of retail companies' performances over the past few holidays, which have been complete and utter shit. And you're starting to get into macros at that point. And I mean, Ryan Cohen's on a 5-year contract.
The stock
he's at this.
Palmer Luckey just released that the mod retro machine that he's making is going to be released this holiday.
I hope that,
like that was today.
If you're asking for what kind of timetable,
Martin, I know that you think that guy is cool. Come the fuck on. Like that guy has the biggest big dick energy. Like I will get behind anything.
I don't know how much it's going to sell in terms of moving the needle for GameStop, but I think that it's the big question is when will the company start growing again?
Fundamentally speaking,
probably this year.
I'm not gonna turn around and say that they're gonna have a great holiday season because I don't know what else there's left that they're going to announce throughout the year. My point of contention here is the fact that I don't ride based off of past performances. I ride based off of what direction I believe Ryan Cohen and the refreshed board that he created is taking the company. I believe very sincerely that he is turning the company around. We might see a pretty good, fourth quarter if you want to focus in on the fourth quarter. But I mean, the company itself is also known as a holding company, and now we're aware that they're able to turn around and purchase and make acquisitions, and they're also able to purchase equities and assets. So looking at the company in that direction,
that, right?
Your board has to approve it in the way that they do it. Basically,
imagine if Roaring Kitty exercised all his calls.
Let's try to stay. Let's try to stay focused because I think
focusing on what they can do fourth quarter.
I'm just saying,
Dilly, you're changing the subject, and we're just trying to really stay focused on one thing because it's very schizophrenic to go back and forth.
Hey, Martin, what's going on, buddy?
So my question, Kevin, was, or 3, or whoever it was.
Kevin can answer it just the same as I can.
Was when does the company start growing? And I think being a retailer, it's pretty hard to grow. There aren't that many retailers that are growing. Digital distribution of games seems like a losing battle. Maybe branded hardware saves them, but this is also a management team that pitched NFTs pretty hard, and that didn't work. So why should I have confidence that they're doing anything right?
Well, if also what do the hardware comps look like from a fundamentals perspective? Like hardware generally, as I understand it, is not a super right. Exactly, it's a very low margin business. So, and if we take a step back and look, right now it's what, a 9-point-something billion company. Who knows? That's going to be extraordinarily volatile. I'm sure we can all assume it's probably not going to stay where it is right now. Whether it goes up, whether it goes down, I don't know. But, so I mean, what was, Martin, if you have the 10K in front of you, what was revenue last year for last fiscal?
5.3
total.
5.3, yeah.
Okay, so it's trading on 1.8 times revenue, right? Currently. Now, obviously, that's just against sales. It's almost meaningless, right? And I don't even know that you can't even really do that against earnings, right? But what I'm trying to back into here is like, how much are they actually going to have to sell of these fucking cords to make this thing, even remotely viable?
That was the problem with the NFT business.
or components or whatever. And again, listen, I love GameStop as much as anybody else. I just walked into a fucking GameStop the other day because I was in a mall and I liked GameStop and buying PlayStation games there. I get it. I hope to God I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want, I want to be wrong. But at the same time, it's like I think it's tough to watch people walking, walking in front of what seems like an economic freight train. But I don't know. I hope I can get a better understanding of, like, I get it. There's clearly a turnaround story. There's an interesting management team here. They're clearly betting on themselves. Those are all great things, right? Or certainly can be. Um, but again, from just a simple viability perspective, like, is this all wishful thinking? And I don't know, maybe I'm going on a crusade trying to address kind of trading psychology here, which is obviously very hard to do. But I don't know. It just seems very, very, very unlikely, even given what we've learned over the last 30 minutes about these new business lines, et cetera, et cetera. It just seems tough. But look, again, I hope to God I'm wrong. And if there's anything else that I'm missing, please, like, tell me, fill me in. I hope so.
I got you. Robert, you and Martin already said that Warren Buffett's the best of all time, right?
I think he generally is certainly one of them, if not the best.
If you asked him what's more important, revenue or profitability, what would he say?
Martin, you take that.
So I think he would say future earnings are what determines the stock price.
Okay, perfect. So profitability over revenue. The revenue is garbage. On dropping with GameStop.
In the case of GameStop, they both have bad revenue growth and negative earnings.
Oh no, their earnings are positive now.
No.
Up 99% in the trailing 12 months.
No. Yes. You got to look at the 10K. I don't know what you're looking at, but you got to look at the 10K.
I'll go after that one. I would say that they went from negative 103 earnings for fiscal 23 to 2 cents positive right now on 1.2 billion in cash. They now have over 2 billion in cash. I
don't know where you learned to look at financial statements, but the 10K is the operative document that you need to look at. It's the important document. In terms of, like, alternatives, there's a drug company that's similar market cap to GameStop called United Therapeutics. Last year, United Therapeutics made $1 billion cash flow. The year before that, they made 800.
I'm not talking about cash flow. I'm talking about earnings. On Apple right now, it says earnings per share are 2 cents.
Earnings are certainly worth looking at. I think
they're positive.
Cash flow is usually what matters, because cash flow is the actual amount of money that you made or lost.
Cash flow is absolutely important. I'm right there with you.
Martin, check your DMs. I think I sent you what Kevin might be looking at.
But look,
I think it's the diluted EPS.
Just scroll over. It says earnings per share 2 cents.
I don't know that there are that many people that are better at looking financial statements than me.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
I know one.
No one's saying that you have it.
I'm just trying to show you. They're looking at a diluted EPS.
I mean, the cash flow last year was negative 204, and they had capex of 35. So it's closer to $250 million of losses. That's not a business I want to be a part of. There's a business you could buy for the same price that made $1 billion last year. Why on earth would I want, for the same price, something that lost 250 when I could buy something that made $1 billion and it's growing?
Like, also, I mean, another question we could ask is, how many years and how much growth in revenue and profitability and cash, however you define it, like, do you expect, or would you have to hold on to this GameStop in order to achieve it? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's all speculative, right? So if it's, because you're not going to hold it for the 20 years that it would take you to get your money back out of the stock via any fundamental measure, right? So
why not?
You can try.
Why? Well, why? I mean, no, I understand, but I'm saying, so are we in agreement that this is all speculative on price?
No,
or
I think the two people that
It always has been.
Dude,
I
it
think the
is.
two people.
okay,
It
well, that's
always
fair.
has
Right.
Okay,
been,
so
but
that's some
all
common
of our
ground.
tinfoil has
Yeah,
come
yeah.
in
The
true. My
long
gosh.
term
Oh my
narrative and the
gosh.
short term fluctuations are completely different with this stock.
Okay.
Obviously, you learn, and like I would never short Nvidia, but you could get your money back in another 75 years there too.
Well, Nvidia's
On
growing, the fastest growth in corporate history, corporate America. GameStop's a piece of shit that has no revenue growth or profitability.
oh, actually, they're still profitable
No,
at 2
last
cents
year
a
last
share.
year they lost $250 million. If you think that's profitable, I think you need to maybe get a CFA or something.
That's cash flow still, and not earnings, where it says 2 cents on every single financial outlet you
I
can
know
Google right
you
now.
think it's smart to look at financial outlets to look at financial statements, but the way pros do it is we look at the SEC filings. Two,
That's
two
good.
cent 2 cents is not profitable either, by the way. That's break even.
Really?
Yeah. When you have 5 billion in revenue and you make 7 million in net income, that's break even.
Look, yeah. I mean, look, I jeez, I wish this was going a different way because fuck, I love, y'all love the stock. I love the store. Like,
Robert, I got a question for you. I'll
yeah,
try
yeah,
last one because
yeah.
Oh, I
nobody's gonna
love the
get it. Nobody's gonna get
store.
anywhere on earnings. But would you
Can't stop,
say
won't stop
if
shopping.
Hey, Martin,
if
have you looked at their debt?
All right, guys. I hate to tell you this, but only one person at a time should speak. You're adults, I think. Try to act like it. I don't know. Everyone's sort of had a chance to talk, except maybe Really. Why don't you go ahead, Really?
Yeah. So from a fundamental standpoint, I don't think that GameStop and other meme stocks like AMC were originally bought um as squeeze plays or anything like that. I think they were recovery plays, and that's where you see the fundamental thesis come in with Roaring Kitty. Roaring Kitty preaches a fundamental thesis, and that's where a deep fucking value investor starts to talk about fundamentals, right? He says it's
Well,
deeply undervalued
I
because of
will
the
say this
fundamentals.
just real quick. As a deep value investor, there is absolutely nothing deep value about GameStop.
Okay,
Right?
but
This
that's
is
see now you're going into opinion, Martin.
well, it's not an opinion.
It
This is
is.
not a deep value stock.
It is an opinion because
How is this a
the,
deep value stock? Do you
well,
know what deep value means?
again, if you let me finish, the reason he bought it is
No,
because
listen. I
he
don't.
felt it was deeply
Listen.
undervalued.
Listen. I don't care about that. Deep value means something on Wall Street, right? You sound like a retard. Deep value means a company that's got beaten up, that is at an extremely depressed price, that has cash flow close to its market cap. This company doesn't have cash flow. That's the opposite of deep value. This is speculative. This is not what you would call deep value. Right? That's like 101 investing.
So why don't you short it?
Well, they are
I
short it, obviously, but
I'm not sure.
Martin,
I don't give a fuck
Martin,
about
I
GameStop.
think that's what I'm getting at, Martin, is that it is a speculative play that
That's
they can get
the
back
opposite of deep
to.
value is speculation.
Well, again, dude, you're establishing the fact that you
Isn't that a good reason?
I mean, you can
you're
make money either
establishing
way,
the
but it's
fact
don't
that
call it
these
deep
things
value.
struggled because of a freaking extreme event in the market, which was COVID, right? Retail stores were shut down.
Retail has
Everyone
struggled
thought
for
they
a
were going.
long time. It's not just COVID.
Again, it was, yes, it did. It bled away a lot of his business. But again, you should be able to raise capital on a company and buy shares to drive the price up. When they took the buy button away, you took away the
What?
ability to raise capital on the company organically through the stock. And that's all there is to it, man. They fucking took it away. This company could have been recovered, and it could have paid down debt earlier, and it could have came out with.
Okay, that was some pretty insane schizophrenia there. I recommend Risperdal or Zyprexa, two strong antipsychotics. You seem to have some issues with reality. I would strongly recommend seeing a psychiatrist immediately. Ben, what's up, man?
Oh my Christ.
So the first thing I might get kicked for this, I don't care, but the first thing I have to come up and say is that Kevin Malone loves to project himself as some guy who would see on like CNBC Fast Money. He has 16 million AUM. Martin, you know that you've owned and been in charge of companies that just shit all over that sort of valuation. Um, so like you don't get to come up in here and
Well, listen,
pretend like you're important.
what I would say is that I don't know that he's pretending that he's important, but I will say that he hasn't said anything intelligent yet.
There you go.
At least I haven't heard anything intelligent.
I
I mean,
will wait for the response. And
he's
also his whole idea like around valuation was just so. And I mean, we already talked about this a little bit, but his whole idea around valuation was so insanely flawed. Like, come on, dude.
It's hard to gear on a negative number. You know, I don't know. I think about
What's the
$10 billion.
price to negative earnings ratio?
Well, obviously earnings can go up, right? Revenue has to go up for earnings to go up, typically. There has to be some part of this company that's profitable, and if they isolate that part, how much profits could it be? I would argue that it's not going to sustain 10 billion. To sustain 10 billion, like I said, you can go buy shares of United Therapeutics. United Therapeutics is going to make $1 billion this year. Why on earth would you pay the same price? I mean, imagine walking down.
Abivax.
Ben, hold on. Imagine walking down a store and you're allowed to buy. You're shopping. You're shopping for a company. That's what the stock market is. It's a store of companies, and you're there to shop, and you're there to get the best bargain. You're there not to get fleeced, right? So you go down the aisle. You go down to the retailer aisle. Okay, in the retailer aisle, you look at the price tag, you see GameStop, and it says 10 billion. You say, okay. Well, you turn over the price tag and you say, well, what do I get for this? Well, you get a company that says, you look closely and you say, okay, their revenue is going down, their earnings are negative. Interesting. Now you mosey down to aisle two, the drug sector. That's a sector I know. And you see this company, United Therapeutics, and you look at the price tag and it says 10 billion. Huh? That's the same price as GameStop. Well, what do I get for this one? Oh, I get positive cash flow. That's $1 billion, and it's growing. The management team is very accomplished, et cetera, et cetera. Now, how many of you have looked at all the other $10 billion companies in the stock market, and you've determined that this is the one? This is the best one. I venture to say very few of you, because there's a lot of interesting companies in the stock market. And if you could tell me, well, I don't like United Therapeutics because their patent's going to expire, and that $1 billion of revenue is going to go to 500 million. I would tell you that it's still a better stock than GameStop, because at least after their patent expires, they're still going to have revenue and earnings. And the management team has proven over time that they're very, very talented and making tons of money. Their management team is a lot more storied than Ryan Cohen, for example. What prospects does GameStop have to get a lot of income? I haven't heard anything yet. I've heard a bunch of hope and copium. And I heard this last year too. And I heard all about NFT marketplace. It was like the worst business expansion ever. If they're going to try something else and try something else and try something else. But the thing about business expansions and new capital initiatives, what's interesting about that, and I think Rob is sort of alluding to this, every company on the planet, including startups, is trying to do the same thing. So there's competition for these same ideas. There's competitions for these same investments. We look at startups every day that want $1 million or want $5 million or want 50, and other companies that are public who have low cost of capital try to do the same things. And if there's a hot market, whether it's yoga pants or custom hardware or pharmaceuticals for PAH, whatever it is, everyone's trying to make money on money. That's just part of the nature of capitalism. This company has not gotten that right for a very long time. New management is great. Maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. But I like to pay for things that are valuable at the right price. So if GameStop was at 3 billion, I would say that makes a lot more sense because they have 2 billion. That's without looking at, that's including the new raise. And maybe I'll give $1 billion to these stores that don't make any money, and maybe they can use these stores to somehow turn it around and make money off something else. It's kind of like very speculative, but 3 billion is kind of where I'd play. Why play at 10 billion? It seems like foolish. That's how I feel. Tiger, do you have something to say?